Okay, welcome back to learning Sichos HaRan daily. Today we are up to Sicha Chaf, Sicha 20, and we begin. Kisha Adam Kol Hayom B'Simcha. When a person is happy all day, when a person is B'Simcha, so happy is not a great translation. I would prefer joyful. Happy is too superficial. Simcha really is much deeper than that. Simcha can exist deep, deep, deep inside, even when on the outside things don't necessarily appear happy. It's the difference between sort of a deep, profound, intense kind of joy that's felt on a very deep level, as opposed to sort of external, superficial smiles and happy clappy. So we're talking about something much deeper than just external, although, as he will explain, the external expression of simcha can have a great value in cultivating internal deep simcha. But in any case, kisha adam kol hayom b'simcha. When a person is happy, when a person is b'simcha all day, azai benaka lo liyached lo sha biyom l'shaver es libo lasiach es asher im levavo lifnei Hashem Yisbarach. Then it becomes easy for a person to set aside some time every day, an hour each day, which is Rabbi Nachman's standard recommendation for his bodhis. But of course, it doesn't have to literally be an hour, but to set aside an hour each day to break their heart, l'shaber es libo, u'latzia es asher levavo, and to speak out what's in their heart, what's on their heart, with Hashem in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Mavur explained Kamapama, as we've explained many times, and the Rabbi Nachman explains many times. It's interesting, of course, that he says here that when you have simcha, then it becomes easy l'shaber es libo to become brokenhearted, because as he's going to go on and explain, when we're talking about simcha here, we're talking about the contrast between simcha and atzmus. Atzmus is a kind of sadness, a kind of depression. Brokenheartedness is not depression. Brokenheartedness is a sense of shiftless, is a sense of smallness, is a sense of neediness, is a sense of also the neediness that comes not because I'm small, but because I appreciate how big HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in a deep way. And so, Shiras Halev, L'Shaveres Libo, it becomes much easier when I'm in a place of simcha. It's also interesting just to point out, I think we've discussed this before, maybe in other contexts, but part of Avoda, there's always two poles in Avoda. We've talked, I think, in the past about Avoda b'Bechinas Rachel and Avoda b'Bechinas Leah, Avoda b'Katnus and Avoda b'Gadlus. And there are two modes of Avoda of Malay Palar Kivodo and the Avoda of Ayin from Kivodo. It's the Avoda of when things are working well spiritually and I experience a Kaddish Baruch Hu, and I'm stavik with a Kaddish Baruch Hu, and my learning goes well, my davening goes well, my relationships go well, etc., etc. And then there's the other mode of avoda, which is to be mistavik with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to recognize and experience dveikus even when things are not going well, because the fact that things are not going well allows me to access and reveal and appreciate a different side of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because they're all sides of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they're all aspects, they're all the penis of the Shekhinah. And so, l'shaver es libo here is an important avoda, and it's specifically when I'm besimcha, specifically when I'm begadol, specifically when things are good, when I feel a sense of joy and fulfillment in my avoda, then that is a particularly good time when I'm able to enter into a hard avoda that requires shviras halev, that I can engage in sort of hard self-reflection, cheshbon hanefesh, hard work, etc. And by contrast, when I'm engaged in when I find myself in a place of katnus, then it becomes very difficult to engage in the sort of hard work, the avoda b'bechinas leah, the avoda b'katnus, because I'm in katnus. So the answer when I'm in katnus is to enter into gadlus, to increase simcha, to try and increase simcha, as he's going to explain a little bit later in the sicha, and to do the things I need to do to draw myself back in the other direction. Right? When I'm stuck in that error, I'm struggling with something, etc. The right approach is not to be down on myself and sort of yell at myself and push myself over all the things that are going wrong. But actually, what I need then is a hug. What I need then is sort of to tell myself how good I am, how great I am, to find the nakuda tova within myself, to bring me back to a point of simcha. And then when I find myself at a point of simcha and I achieve gadol samochin and a sense of spiritual expansiveness and safety and comfort and so on, so then I can move back from that into the hard work of kindness and deal with the hard issues. And that's a very, very important avoda. And so that's part of what's going on over here, that Kisha Adam Kol Hayom B'Simcha, then it becomes possible, Shaver Liba. Aval kishiyesh lo atzvus, when a person is in atzvus, when a person is in sadness and depression, chas v'shalom, kasha lo lisvoded lifrosh tzivasa, then it becomes very hard for a person to seclude themselves, to be misboded, to seclude themselves, to be alone with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the lifrosh tzivasa, and lefar tzivasa, and to express and to explain and to give over and engage with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to explain what's on their mind, to explain what's on their heart. It becomes very hard. Rabbi Nachman explains elsewhere that atzvus is a function of Chisar and Emunah. All atzvus is a function of, to some extent, in some way, shape, or form. And again, this is not a judgment of anyone who's suffering from atzvus. Certainly, we're not talking at all of someone suffering from atzvus and depression in a clinical sense. We're talking about normal atzvus, right? Not clinical atzvus, but not clinical depression, but normal sadness that someone goes through, being down on themselves, being down on the world, and so on. But nevertheless, Rabbi Nachman says that atzvus is a function of Chisar and that every aspect, every little tiny scintilla and bachin of sadness, of depression that a person is experiencing, of darkness that a person is experiencing, is because they have work to do on their emunah in order to appreciate that everything is good, everything is exactly the way Hashem wants it to be. Even the hard things are exactly the way Hashem wants it to be, and therefore they're good. They're hard, but they're good. And so when you're in a place of atzvus, of course, there's your emunah is struggling. You're struggling in your emunah, and so it becomes harder to engage with the thing you're supposed to be mammon in. And so hispodidus and being and sichaso with Hashem Yisbarach becomes very challenging. He continues, and see in other places where we've spoken about how a person has to work hard to try and strengthen themselves in order to be sameach, in order to be happy all the time, in order to be joyful all the time. And the way through that and into that, of course, is going to be emunah on a deep level. And especially during tefillah, when it comes to tefillah, it becomes critical. It becomes critical to be misameach in tefillah. Again, misameach, simcha doesn't necessarily mean external, sort of superficial happy. It's something much, much deeper and much more profound than that. But a person has to work to push themselves into a place of simcha in order to be mispal effectively. Tefillah can be heavy, but that's not the same thing as not being the simcha. Ki lizbos the simcha zeh, kasha mukabe la'adam lizbos zeh. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. It's very heavy. It's very hard to enter into simcha, to have simcha, to be zocha to simcha. Yoser mishar kol avodas, more so than any other avodah. This is because, in part, the teva of a person, the nature of a person, is to be drawn after marshal. Nothing writes in many places. Our nature is to be drawn after negativity, to be drawn into a negative way of viewing the world. What's wrong? The glass is half empty, etc. And the reason for that is very simple. Why are we drawn after negativity rather than positivity? Because what is atzvus? What is Marish Torah? Marish Torah and atzvus is a function of the absence of emunah. We are here in order to work, in order to achieve the Beit Yisrael Kadosh Baruch Hu. We're here to work hard in order to encounter, experience, reveal, and appreciate the presence of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, to achieve them and to achieve the Beit Yisrael. Why? Like the Arizal says, like all the Svarim say, because the goal of everything is Ratzah Kadosh Baruch Hu hate to good of Rav. Kadosh Baruch Hu wants to do goodness to us, and that goodness will be compromised if we receive that goodness unearned. And so HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to earn that goodness. What is the ultimate goodness? The ultimate goodness is to have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to align ourselves with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to be mistavik with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the ultimate goodness. And if it comes for free, if we see HaKadosh Baruch Hu everywhere and anywhere in ourselves and around us and so on and so forth, and we appreciate the Yad Hashem in every tiny little thing, both what is experience of positive and what's experience of negative, so then it would just be a freebie. And it would be Naham Dekisifa. We wouldn't fully enjoy it because it's just been handed to us for free. We'd be a little bit embarrassed about it. It's much, much better to take home what we've earned and to earn a paycheck at the end of the day. And so the world is filled with Simpson. The world is filled with darkness. The world is filled with the things that produce heder, or the absence of the presence of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the apparent absence of the presence of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And the world is full of things that produce marshmallow and things that produce chusar and emuna, because we live in a world that doesn't naturally lend itself to emuna. That's the point. So we're naturally drawn towards atzvus. We're naturally drawn towards negativity. If we were naturally drawn towards positivity, the work here would be too easy, and we would be too easily recognizing our Kadosh Baruch Hu, and then the goodness that we receive would be missing something. So much better that we are naturally drawn after atzvus. But because we're naturally drawn after atzvus, so in order to be zocha to simcha, it's very challenging. Yoser mishar kol avodos. Anava Amran, Rabbi Nachman continued, he said, Kifi hanira she'efshir lavo simcha ki im al yidei inyan shtus. As we see that sometimes it's impossible to achieve simcha. Right? We can try to get there in our heads and in our emotions as much as we want to, but we just can't get there except through doing stupid, silly things. Lasos atzmo keshot lasos inyan spoke just by making ourselves silly, by doing silly and absurd things, by playing. The importance of play, the importance of silliness, the importance of joking, etc., is extremely, extremely valuable. Sometimes the only way to get to simcha is to pretend that we have simcha, is to pretend that we have simcha on the outside, as we've talked about so many times before. Rabbi Nachman has told us that the first step into a new space is to take a step beyond our comfort zone. We're not there yet. If we were already there yet, we would be there. So we're not there yet. We're not the simcha yet. So what do we have to do in order to get the simcha? We have to take an artificial step into simcha just in our actions, just like the first step into growth in avodas Hashem is yiras Hashem, yiras ha'onesh. Is yiras ha'onesh. I'm not going to do the thing not because I don't want to do the thing, but because I'm afraid of being punished for the thing. It's just an external performance, but that's the entry point into bringing myself into that space. And likewise here, when it comes to simcha, the entry point into simcha, not always, but sometimes the entry point into simcha has to be just to do silly things and just to play and just to act absurd and ridiculous, and to drag ourselves into the simcha, because our body is already there, our actions are already there, and our mind and our heart will follow. And as we know, right, just smiling on the outside can affect a person's emotional state on the inside. And doing silly games and playing silly things, again, perhaps not initially, depending on how deep the atzvus is. Do it enough, and you do it consistently, and you really get into it. It changes your experience, it changes your mindset, and now you perhaps can now work on it internally as well to bring yourself into simcha. And when a person enters into simcha, when a person is able to achieve simcha, so then Kadosh Baruch Hu himself watches over the person and saves them from Pagam Habris. Pagam Habris is rooted in atzvos. Pagam Habris is the distraction, is the way we run away from things that are bothering us, from things that are troubling us, from things of the world is not the way it needs to be. So if you enter into simcha, so Pagam Habris easily and without even any hard work can easily fall away. Hard work comes in making ourselves happy and finding simcha, and then so many other good things follow on that. Have a good day.